Um, Thank you very much, Irene, and welcome everybody. Shabbat Shalom. You probably might not have known that David and Vivian Harris and Danny, who's not on Zoom this evening, together with his wife Jan and myself, spent a very enjoyable Pesach in Greece, in Haldiki. And one of the visits that we made actually was on Kol Moed, was to Salonika. And I thought it'd be quite interesting just to talk briefly about the history of the Jews there and about the shul and the relevance it has today with the Parsha that we're going to be reading tomorrow. So the Jews actually date back some 2,000 years, mostly Eastern Sephardim, and it's reported that actually in 1170 there were about 500 Jews living in the town. And there was a major migration following the expulsion of Jews in Spain in 1492 and indeed in Portugal, from Portugal in 1540. There was a golden age in the 16th century where about over 66% of the town were actually Jews. In the 19th century, educators and entrepreneurs came to develop schools and industry, such as fishing, spinning. There were wool mills there as well, and also food. In 1823, unfortunately, there was a severe outbreak of cholera, and later on, the city was captured from the Ottoman Empire in 1912. And in 1920, however, the Jews were allowed to be full citizens. There was a great fire in 1917 when the lower part of the town was totally destroyed. And this originated from a homemade stove at a refugee's home. The town had no fire service, and it took 32 hours for the fire to be put out. The terrible thing about it that at least half of the shuls were destroyed. And of course, about 55,000 Jews were left homeless then, and then some of them left for France and the States. The town was very badly crowded, and then when it was rebuilt, it was actually transformed. We had an opportunity of going to visit the shul there, and I'll mention a little bit more about that in a minute. The monastery shul was constructed in 1925 from funding from Yugoslavian Jews, and it was designed by an architect, Ernest Lowy, from Buchau, between Austria and Hungary, who was based in Carlsbad, and he was a Czechoslovakian engineer. In fact, he helped to build the railway line from Vienna to Salonika. The shul was consecrated in 1927. So families that had fled during the Balkan Wars between 1912 and 13 established themselves in Salonika. And during the Second World War, the shul was saved by being requisitioned by the Red Cross. In June 1978, the shul was severely damaged by an earthquake, but restored by the Greek government. And in 2016, there was further restoration, which was actually supported by the German government. And today in the community, there are about 1,300 Jews in the community. The unfortunate thing for us was there is a Jewish museum which was opened in 2001, and we didn't have an opportunity of actually visiting that. However, there was a special reason that I wanted to comment on the shul, because there was about 6 coachloads going to visit the town, and on our coach was cousin Stephen Robbins. So when we actually stood in the shul, cousin Robbins actually sang the closing part of the Kedusha from generation to generation Lador vador, lador vador, lador vador, hagid alecha. We will declare your greatness and we will proclaim your holiness forevermore. And following that, we then sang Hatikva and followed that by Kaddish. I later found out that it was actually Stephen Robbins' 80th birthday. So that was a very memorable moment for us. In the Parsha this week, as we know, it's also known as Torah Kohanim. When we look at the first verse that occurs 3 times, V'omer Adonai Moshe, Emor Ha'okim Be'Haron, V'emarta lachem. So Hashem said to Moshe, say to the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, and you shall say to them. And it occurs once in the past tense, twice in the second person, once in the third person, and once in the imperative, and once in the future. And Hashem uses very precise language. So it's a direct address that Moshe is to make to Aaron's sons. And the third, you shall say, is an instruction that Aaron's sons are to speak to the next generation. So maintaining distinctions of Kohanim, Levite, and Israelite is contributing to a fuller sense of one's own identity, binding one to past generations and to the future. So there's also a concept of leaders of the community and the impact that they will have. So the Israelites are commanded to bring pure olive oil for the Ner Tamid, and as we know, that has kept burning eternally throughout generations with communal responsibility. And we, of course, think about parents, how they educate their children and grandchildren, the Kohanim, how they educate their own community, and how teachers actually respond to their students. And of course, the Omer recalls the leadership lead up to the B'nai Israel receiving the Torah each day was a process of preparation. And the idea behind the oral Torah was that it would require a process of transmission received from generation to generation. And we are part of this covenant leading towards our unfinished goal and passing on the baton, so to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rachelle. That was very interesting indeed.